Hello and welcome to Real Chat with Kat, the podcast dedicated to igniting your entrepreneurial spirit and empowering you to conquer new horizons. In this podcast, we chat with inspiring entrepreneurs on their journey to success through some amazingly insightful and expansive conversations. These episodes thrive on thought-provoking chats where our guests fearlessly explore their path to success, sharing their experiences, failures, and triumphs. No topic is off limits as we deep dive into the talked about and not so talked about pieces it takes to build a business, overcome limiting beliefs, deal with personal struggles, and everything in between that shapes our lives and our businesses. I'm your host, Kat Polsinelli, creator and founder at The Lotus Effect, where we believe that success is not just about strategies and tactics, it's about cultivating a powerful mindset and creating customized business operations that align with you and your true purpose. Whether it's mastering time management, improving productivity, enhancing leadership skills, or simply fostering a growth-oriented mindset, we'll provide you with the tools and strategies to flourish in both your business and personal life. I'm so excited to have you join us today in this episode, so get ready to feel empowered and inspired as we learn together and from one another on how to rise above challenges, break through limitations, and unlock our full potential. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Real Chat with Kat. I am so excited to have you here with me today, and congratulations, you made it to a new year. When this episode releases, we are officially in 2025, a few weeks in. So congratulations to everybody that's made it into the new year, and I hope you've got some really great things in the works. We have some awesome conversations and some great things in the works today as well. So Lynda, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today.
I'm excited to be here, Kat. Thanks for having me, and Happy New Year.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited to dive into this conversation. I think that we're going to hit on so many important pieces that honestly, a lot of people are going to do really well with starting out their year with hearing. So Lynda, as we dive into the conversation, then please do us a favor and tell everybody who you are and what it is that you do.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much for having me. And, I love getting on these podcasts because you never know who's going to be hearing and how what you say might impact them. And I'm hoping that something I say today impacts your life in some way, shape, or form. My name is Lynda Sunshine West. And first, Sunshine's not my given name. A lot of people ask me, is that your given name? And it isn't. And it's kind of interesting how it happened. I was about 55 years old, and somebody randomly called me Sunshine. And then somebody else did like a week or two later. And then a couple weeks later, a couple more people called me Sunshine. And I was like, what do you mean Sunshine? Like, they're calling me Sunshine. There must be something there. So I decided I'm going to adopt it on Facebook officially and see what happens. And what's interesting about it is that nobody had ever called me Sunshine for 55 years of my life. And suddenly 4 random people called me Sunshine. And I adopted that to be my name. And now I believe myself as Sunshine. So I start off with that because, I went through a personal development journey at age 51. And that's when my life really, really started to unfold. And I started to believe in myself. So as we talk today, I'll be sharing some of the things that I've learned along this journey. It's been absolutely incredible. And when I was growing up and when I was younger, I used to think that people that were like laughing a lot or having a good time, I always thought it was fake. And now that I'm on the other side, I see that this is not fake at all, that if you really love your life, that you should be out there, just expressing yourself and just sharing your joy, and it's not fake. So I just wanted to start with that. But with that said, I have become a book publisher. It was about 6.5 years into my personal development journey that I moved into book publishing because I loved hearing people's stories. And then I started sharing their stories, and that's what got me into book publishing. So today I'm now a 43 times #1 international bestselling author, and have helped, over 500 people become bestselling authors as well.
I love that so much. And congratulations. That is something to be so
Thank
super
you.
proud of. And I love that you give this story about how this name came to you. And I love how you just were like, you know what, there's got to be a meaning behind it. Let's just go with it kind of a scenario. Because, for so many of us, myself included, I know that like I've seen connections and I'm like, I'll just wait for one more, right? Like we keep
Right.
putting it off. But what I think is really beautiful about what you shared as well is how open you are about where you were at in your journey. And I think that a lot of people need to realize this as we're moving into a new year as well, that like age doesn't matter when it comes to when you decide to go through your personal development or when it kind of hits you in the face to be like, okay, something should be different, something needs to change. And I love that you're very real about that and so open to share with others regarding that, because I do think that a lot of times we guard ourselves from being that way because of the fear of how other people will see us, what they may think about us, how are we going to fit in, and all of that. And honestly, I think that that's what keeps us in this zone of judgment. You were talking about how when you were younger, you would see all these people laughing and having fun. You thought it was fake. And that is so funny because literally my husband and I had this conversation last year because when I started on my journey of how can I be more happy? How can I start presenting myself in a way where like I am happy for other people. And so I started kind of, I don't want to say forcing, but in a way, kind of like forcing myself to like comment on people's stuff and be like, congratulations, good for you. I'm so proud. And my husband and I were actually talking about this one time. He was like, God, it just seems so fake. And I was like, what's so funny is I really thought that for like the longest time. Like, there's no way that these people really feel like this happy and this joyous for like so many different people while they're still going through their own thing. And then after I started my journey and started being that person for others, I'm like, it is so infectious to just be like, oh my God, congratulations. Even if I'm not in the space that I want to be in, it's almost like a way to like brighten your day by being able to congratulate and cheerlead somebody else on. I don't know how you feel about that, but I feel like that's what kind of
Yeah.
happened for me.
Yeah, I actually would love to talk about that. Again, again, at age 51, this is when I started the journey. And just like you said, you're never too old to start something new. And my whole life has really started, since that day that I decided to look at myself and see what can I change? What can be different about me? And it was all, things kind of happen in life. And I said this to somebody one day, there's a saying that, things happen for a reason. And I said this to her name is Forbes Riley. I don't know if you know her, but she's known as the $2.5 billion woman. She's like on QVC and all those like shopping channel and stuff. And she said, I don't believe things happen for a reason. I believe things happen and we give reason to it. And I loved it when she said that because it really got me thinking that, see, we really have more power and ability in how we direct our lives than we give ourselves credit for. And so, I do believe in God and I do believe things are being guided and directed. However, we still have our own ability to think for ourselves. And we have that as human beings. Animals aren't like that. They're more instinctual, whereas humans can think about what they're going to do. And so if we think about that, the power that we have is that if I wake up in the morning and there's a saying, like, oh, you woke up on the wrong side of the bed, which means that you're grumpy, right? And so
Yeah.
we can choose to wake up on the right side or the wrong side of the bed, even getting out on the same side of the bed every day. We have a choice, right? I'm still getting out on the same side, but I have a different mental attitude. And
Mhm.
so what happened was it was 2015 and I woke up, it was January 1st. So this was like not a New Year's resolution because I have broken every single New Year's resolution I've ever set. But I said, you know what? I've got a lot of fears. I'm going to break through a fear every single day this year. So 365 days in a row, I'm 51 years old and I'm embarking on this journey of breaking through a fear every day. Well, as I got about 6 months into it, I came to the conclusion that the fears that I had broken through those past 6 months, that the majority of them, vast majority, were related to the fear of judgment. And
Ooh.
so you were talking about judgment earlier. And what I realized is that I had such fear of judgment. Well, then I started looking at that closer and saying, oh, I just need to figure out this whole judgment thing. Because if I can figure this out, then I'll have a lot less fears. And I embarked on the journey for the next 6 months to help myself get better at not feeling judged, right? So just kind of like that was my goal. And one thing I discovered is that I was my greatest judge. So I was my own
Oh,
worst enemy. And check this out, Kat. Once I started working on myself and stopped judging myself negatively and started seeing myself as this good person, this confident person, this person who really wanted to help people, I stopped judging others. And when I stopped judging others, I had less fear of judgment of them on me. So it started with me. Like I had to work on myself first, my own fear of like my own judging myself first. And then it went outward to other people, my judgment of them. And I started looking at other people and saying, let me see the goods in others. And then I stopped worrying about them judging me. So it was kind of like this cycle. It was so crazy that it worked, but I no longer have the fear of judgment. I do crazy things all the time. And I used to not do them because I was fearful of what people would think about me. But now I don't even worry about it anymore.
oh my goodness. I love this so much. This is like one of my favorite topics because I've talked about this so many times about I did the same thing. I judged people so harshly for like the
Yeah.
longest time. And I think women tend to do that a little bit more for whatever we are
Yeah.
just brought up in this society, through high school and everything. We're just drama is a thing and you start to judge everybody else. And I actually had someone on my podcast a while back and they said, when you think about when you are judging others, think about the things that you are judging them on, because more than likely, what you are judging them on, you are also judging yourself of. And that was like the coolest epiphany for me. I was like, oh my gosh. So then every time that I thought about judging someone, I was like, oh, I did think that about me, right? So, like for me, it was self-image for a really long time where I would see women in like really sexy clothes or like, low cut shirts. And I'm like, God, that's just disgusting. And then I was like, oh my God, I realized that I feel that way when I put anything on. It doesn't even have to be super low cut, but like I get insecure and very in my head. And I think that a lot of that has to do with my upbringing as well. I was brought up in, a Catholic upbringing, very strict. You don't show your shoulders in church and things like that. So, like, part of that plays into it. But it's really interesting when you like literally think about why you were judging someone and then think really hard about like, have I judged myself for that? And then you start to unravel those pieces. And what I have found that's really interesting, and I'd love to know if you have seen this as well, is when I started not judging myself and loving myself more, and so therefore I stopped judging others, what I realized was I was actually able to come at a conversation or any type of interaction from a very different standpoint, from a standpoint of like curiosity, right? So generally, like when I see someone, if they're rude or, something happens or, that I hear them talking to someone a certain way, my first assumption is not, oh, well, they're just a jerk or they're just an a-hole. Like my first assumption is like, I wonder what they're going through. I wonder how they're doing. And it's really interesting. And I do that now, like on a regular basis when I'm talking with my kids, when I'm talking with my spouse, when I'm talking with my family, with anyone. If I hear a tone raise or an attitude, I don't immediately take it towards me. I'm like, well, where did that come from? What did that have to do with the situation? What are you feeling right now? It's really interesting, but it's really kind of opened up this space of neutrality when it comes to dealing with certain situations. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still get triggered and things still tick me off. I'm human, but
Right.
the larger majority of the times that I'm going through things, it's a lot easier to just be neutral in a situation and understand that there more than likely is something else behind what is going on in that moment versus me going, oh, how dare you? And immediately feeling attacked or feeling like I should judge that person for however they're reacting.
Yeah, what I love about this is I actually, it's kind of like you, the post, I did a post the other day about perception, and our perception of what's happening outwardly is based on what's happening within us. And a great example is that one day I was sitting here at my desk, I was working away, and when I'm working, I'm here, like I'm in my work, right? And my husband walked by and he said something, and I'm sitting here working, and he said something. I heard him, and I interpreted it to be something negative. And I just started getting angry. I'm still working, getting angry, seething at the, foaming at the mouth like a rabid dog. And then it dawned on me that he probably didn't mean what I interpreted as. So I walked over to him and I said, "Hey, when you just said XYZ, did you mean this?" And he goes, "No, that never even crossed my mind." You see, I was perceiving what he said based on what I was going through and how I was feeling. But I was placing judgment on what he said, and it wasn't what he meant at all. So when we can come to that place, just like you mentioned, like that place of curiosity, instead of me keeping on being mad, which is like in the past, I would have stayed mad for weeks.
Oh,
Instead,
yeah.
it was only about 2 or 3 minutes. And because I had this epiphany that I might be interpreting this wrong. Let me go check and find out. Let me do a temperature check on him. And what was awesome about it is just by me doing that, that curiosity piece, boy, curiosity has what saved my life lately, but just that curiosity piece made me calm down immediately. It was immediate.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important for us to think like there's a thing that we can either react to situations or we can respond. Reacting it's actionary, like somebody said something and this is my reaction. I don't even think about it. There's no forethought. Whereas response, there's actual some thoughtfulness that goes into it. And maybe sometimes we just need to pause for 3 or 4 seconds before we say something, before we do something. Like, let's calm down, and have real conversations with people. Like, that's what we're doing today, right? We're having a real conversation about life and about things. But, judgment, it comes from us first. It comes from us first. And I'll share one real quick example of something that happened during my journey of me realizing that, wow, I've grown, like as you're on a personal development journey, I think it's important for us to check in and say, how am I doing? How is my
Hmm.
growth? And then, how I could tell was I attended an event once and I walked in and I saw this woman standing on the other side of the room and she was dressed impeccably. She looked amazing. And I just felt this sudden urge to go walk over to her and say, I just got to tell you that I saw you from the other side of the room and you look amazing, impeccable. You're so beautiful. And she said, thank you so much. She goes, people don't usually, talk to me. It's because a lot of times people are turned off by somebody who looks impeccable and amazing. And right there, that was as I walked away from her, I was like, I've grown. Because in the past, I would have been the one not talking to her because
Yeah.
who does she think she is? It's kind of like that was my mentality. So that
Yeah.
was my moment of like, you have grown, Lynda. And I was so proud of myself for working on myself, and
Hmm.
boy, my life has completely changed ever since I started that journey at 51.
I love that. And it's so important in I had to be reminded, I still have to be reminded of this. I have to be reminded constantly of like you were saying, checking in with ourselves and like realizing the growth that we have done or realizing the areas that we have improved because so many times, especially since we're in the new year, because you know what everybody's going to be posting about, what was my big win? What did I do last year? And there's going to be a lot of people that are like, I'm just happy that I'm here, right?
Yeah.
And we don't upplay those like we should because we get so caught up in everybody else's huge accomplishments. And so it's been very, very radically changing for me to focus on those small things and like really check in with myself. It's actually funny. It's one of the things that I do before I go to bed when I lay down and I'm close my eyes and I'm kind of like half in, half out. I'm like, you know what? I did that really well today, or I actually got more accomplished than I thought I was going to, or you know what? I didn't get as much done today, but I'm proud of myself for sticking through it because I wanted to give up at 2 o'clock. Like just simple things like that, because you never know when those small little things start stacking on each other to create this giant snowball effect that you're looking for. And I think that we get caught up in wanting to see these huge results, and we forget that it is all these little bitty stepping stones that we took that got us to this space. And the more that you focus on this space, right, the destination that everybody talks about, the less that you pay attention to the journey. And then you
Yeah.
miss all the beauty that's intertwined in all of that. And I think that that's so important that we pay attention to. And I love that you brought that up, because we need to make sure we're checking in with ourselves. We need to be aware of where we are improving, even if it is something as small as like, I decided to talk to that person and not judge them, because that inevitably is what continues to push you forward, especially on the hard days, right? Or the hard weeks, or heck, the hard months. It happens. And so I think this is such a beautiful conversation for the new year, when so many people are going to see on social media everybody's huge accomplishments. And I say to anybody that's listening, like, I don't care how small your accomplishment is. I don't care if your accomplishment was, I made it through the last month. And I made sure that I showed up, even if it wasn't to the
Yeah.
best of my ability. I want you to shout that from the rooftops, because people should be proud of you for that. And you should be proud of you for that. And you don't have to have this huge win to shove in people's face to be able to say, I did something different, or I pushed forward, or I am continuing, even though I've fallen on my face 15 times, which I feel like I had for so many years. Like, I don't know how many
And you
times I
got
hit
up
that
15
pavement.
times. You got up 15 times, right? What is it? Les Brown says you don't fail because when you fall down, you don't fail if you get back up.
Hmm.
It's like if I'm falling and I can look up, I can get up, and that's
Yeah.
like just get up. And there's something I'd love to talk about here, because I think that this was one of my huge epiphanies. And um it's interesting how, just to share this thought too, is when somebody says something, it helps to give us thought about something, like it expands, right? So the thing you said about, complimenting ourselves, or that wasn't exactly what you said, but I call it, patting ourselves on the back. Like, I believe it's very important for us to pat ourselves on the back on a regular basis. So when I started my personal development journey, I didn't know what to pat myself on the back for. And then as I started going, I was like, oh, I got up today, pat myself on the back, right? Or I showed up, because before we got started here today, I shared with you that sometimes, it gets to the point where I just want to shut down, because like there's so much going on. I just want
Yeah.
to shut down and crawl into a ball, which is what I used to do. But now I'm learning that, just kind of start to clear my calendar for future, but make my way through every day. And so patting yourself on the back, I think, is really important. But here's the thing that I realized about myself. Now, this might be helpful for those of you who need outside validation
Mm.
about who you are, because I was that person. I wanted my dad's approval. I wanted my mom's approval. I wanted my oldest sister's approval. Like, I wanted my teachers. I wanted approval from everybody, because that would make me feel better. Right. And so what I found was important during this journey is for me to learn how to have inward approval and not rely on outward approval. And so what I did, and I share this because this was a huge growth thing for me, is to learn how to pat myself on the back and how to be proud of myself for what I'm doing, and not rely on others in order for me to keep going, or to like realize I'm doing something that I truly want to do. So what I started doing is, when I would do something well, I would say, great job, Lynda. So I would talk in third person, because in my brain is hearing it that somebody else is saying, great job, Lynda.
Okay.
So by using my own name, somebody else is saying it to me. My brain doesn't know the difference. And I would actually say it out loud. Great job, Lynda. I like the way you did this, Lynda. Keep doing that, Lynda. And so I've done over 6,000 live videos. And, as you can maybe imagine, I didn't watch them all, because that's a lot of videos to watch. But what I started doing, and this helped with this self-validation thing, what I started doing is I would watch some of my videos and I would look for only the good things. Because oftentimes what happens when we watch a video, oh, you say too much, you say so too much, you do this when you talk, all these negative things. And the saying is that what we focus on grows. So if what we focus on grows, if I'm watching a video and I'm watching all the bad things because I want to correct all the bad things, then that's what's going to grow. So what happens if I focus on all the good things? So I would be watching a video, I'd say, oh, I really like the way you said that, Lynda. Oh, I really like that message, Lynda. Make sure you talk about that more. Because what happened is when I started focusing on the good things, that's what grew. And if the good stuff is automatically growing, the negative stuff is automatically dissipating. And so when I watch a video, I only look for the good things. I especially look for the things that I say that are funny, because I want to be funny sometimes, So I'll specifically look for those. Like today, I'm going to look at all the funny things I did, or the funny things I said, or the funny way I did my head, or whatever, But focusing on those positive things really helped me to validate myself, and it helped me to show up more because I was validating myself. So hopefully that's helpful for somebody, because that changed my world.
I love that. Like that is so smart. And that makes so much sense, right? And I think about how many times I was looking for outside validation, and I've always been my own worst critic, right?
Yeah,
Especially in the singing arena. So I love to sing, and so I was
me
always,
too.
like, oh, I could have done this a little bit different. That could have been a little bit better. And I listened to this person, I'm like, but I didn't make that note quite like I wanted it to. And what's really funny is like when you think about it, half of the time people don't pay attention to that anyway. They're just enjoying the moment. But because you are so fixated on tearing it apart, you're not enjoying any piece of it. So you're getting to slice it up into all these things instead of being able to actually see the beautiful overview that it is. And what's so funny that you say that, as far as like validating yourself in third person, which I think is genius, is I did that in the beginning too. Like I quit watching like my videos. Like I couldn't do it, right? Like so I would do stories and I'd be like, oh, okay, that sounds good. We're gonna go to the next one. We're gonna go to the next one. And I would get it posted, and like that would be the end of it. Now I catch myself rewatching them, especially ones I want to save and make reels and stuff out of, and I catch myself laughing. So like if I do something silly in one of my videos where I'm hoping that people laugh, I will then find myself laughing at myself as if it's just this funny joke. And then I'm like, I thought I was funny. Well, that was cool. Like, but
Right.
it's so neat. And I know that, so many people roll their eyes, myself included, when people say, if you would just learn to love yourself more for the person that you are, the more that you would be able to love others and be able to be open to others. And it sounds so simple, yet so complicated. And for the longest time, I was like, that is so stupid. But it is so true, so
Yeah.
true. And I have to ask, and I know that this is kind of going back toward the beginning, but you talked about this 365 days of fear. First off, I'm mind blown by this. And I know I told you this when we first talked. Like this, that's crazy. That's amazing and crazy. And then my second question is, and I know that somebody out in the crowd is thinking this, what kind of things did you do then that you were attacking on a day-to-day basis? Because immediately, right, my fear goes to like, okay, so then I should skydive and I should do something that has to do with heights and maybe I should do something. And I know that it doesn't have to do with all these big giant things, right? Because we're talking about these little bitty things that make such a difference in our lives that push us forward to this next level. So I would love to know, what were some of the fears then that you focused on, that you feel like you attacked and dealt with every single day that led you through these 365 days?
Yeah, first, I love this question because it's my favorite one to answer. But before we go there, I'm going to share, because you mentioned singing, and I'm not the best singer. I know that I can hit notes most of the time, but my voice, like I would compare myself to Whitney Houston, my favorite, which is Pat Benatar, my absolute favorite of all time. I would compare myself to those people, and that's why I didn't think I was very good. But I was on this cruise ship, and they had karaoke. Now, I had never done karaoke before. I'd never sung in front of a live person before, just my family. Like we always sang together. And so there was this karaoke, and I signed up, and I did the song YMCA by the Village People, from back in the 70s. First of all, did you know that song's about 5 minutes long? I mean, That was
It
the longest
is.
karaoke song ever. So I got up there and I'm doing the karaoke and I'm doing the YMCA and all this stuff. And I'm having a great old time. I'm just having a blast up there, making a fool of myself because I didn't sound great or anything. But I got down and I was shaking like a leaf because I was so nervous that I got up there, but I had fun. And then about 20, 30 minutes after I got up there, I was like, I'll put my name on the list again to do another song. But then this woman comes over to me and she said, I want to thank you for getting up there because you gave my grandson the courage to get up there and sing. And he sang this song by, I don't remember the name of the artist, but it's called Cats in the Cradle. And he sang it like this: cats in the cradle in the silver spoon, little boy blue in the man. Like he was monotone. He was like maybe 14, but he was up
Oh,
there and he was doing it. And it dawned on me that I was so bad. I was so bad that I gave him confidence to get up there. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. Like what a great gift to not be scared to get up there, me, to not be scared, which I was terrified, but to do it and to give somebody else that other gift to be able to do that 7 nights in a row. He was at karaoke, I was at karaoke, and we both got up there and we sang. And there was one point where me and this other woman came and sang back as backup singers for him. It was so just, we had a blast. So anyway,
I love that.
it was so amazing. Dare to suck, dare to get out there and just do it. This is one thing that I think has been really important for me, is to, again, not be so fearful about what people think about me. If you think about the comedians out there, like I was always really quick to come up with jokes and stuff because I joked about myself. I got really good at it because when I was younger, I got teased a lot started in my family, by the way. The worst people on the planet, my family. It started there, and then I went to school and I was teased all the time. And so I decided that I'm going to be smarter and I'm going to tease myself first. I'm going to beat them all to it. And so that way, instead of them laughing at me, they're going to laugh with me. This was my thought. Of course, what ended up happening is I started judging myself worse and worse and worse. That's the reality of what happened. So when it came to the time to, so now I'll answer your question. So when it came to the time to breaking through these fears, I didn't have a list. People ask me, did you have a list of fears? Like, I don't think I could have 365 fears. Why did you decide to do 365 days in a row? Well, I don't know. It just came up. It's just like, I'm going to break through a fear every day this year. Like, it was so random out of the blue. And the fears, like, I had no idea what they were going to be, but I knew one thing, and that was that no matter what the fear is, I'm going to break through it that day. That was my only caveat, is I had to break through it that day, no matter what it was. And so every morning when I woke up, the first thing I did before I got out of bed is I woke up and I asked myself a question, 3 words that changed my life. What scares me? Those 3 words every day, 365 days in a row. And then I laid in bed and this was, again, my whole thing was, I wake up, ask yourself the question, find out what the answer is, and then go break through the fear that day. That was my system. That was it. And so I had to lay in bed until the fear popped into my head. Now, what's interesting is some days it was instant, just like that. The fear popped right into my head as if I had been dreaming about it all night long, waiting for me to wake up and ask the question. And other times it took 10 or 15 minutes, but I laid in bed waiting for the answer. And so what happened is that year, not a single one of my fears was jumping out of a plane, bungee jumping, eating bugs. It wasn't fear factor. My fears were so deep rooted in the fear of judgment that just about every single fear was about judgment. So an example of a fear would be go to Starbucks and talk to a stranger. That was a fear of mine, to talk to strangers. I had a tremendous fear of meeting new people. So a lot of the days it was a fear of like because I was going to 4 to 5 networking events a day at the time, because I was a brand new entrepreneur, and not a day, a week, 4 to 5 a week. And so it would be, okay, go to the networking event and start a conversation. Go to the networking event and collect 2 business cards. Like, these may seem very simple to some people, but these were debilitating fears for me, to the point that what I used to do is I would drive to a networking event, park my car, get on Facebook, never go inside, then go home. That's how I networked.
Wow.
I was so scared to walk into the room of strangers. So, see, my fears were so deep rooted in judgment that I needed to work on that one fear. So, as I tackled it every single day, and maybe the fear one day, I remember the fear was to answer, to call my mentor. I was scared to call my mentor because he might tell me like it is. I had a fear of that. So anyway, the fears were what may seem ridiculous to others. For me, they were debilitating. And so one of the things I like to say is that your fears may seem ridiculous to somebody, but to you, they're real. And what that means is that you are the one who needs to deal with it. Don't worry about what other people think of your fears, because my fears might be stupid to some people. You're scared to talk to people, really? You're like, what's the big deal? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? Well, it doesn't matter. It was a fear. It was real to me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I came up with a lot of different ways to break through fears. One of them is like, there's a saying that fears is false evidence appearing real. And I remember I was brushing my teeth and it was like 6 months into it. I'm like, false evidence appearing real. There's nothing false about my fears at all. And they don't appear real. They are real to me. They may appear real, fake to you, but to me, they're real. And so I came up with a different acronym for fear. And that's that is that faith erases anxious reactions. Because when our fear is strong, our faith is weak. So that means that when our faith is strong, our fear is weak. So if we're experiencing fear, we have to flip it, move into a place of faith. This is the faith in yourself that you can do it. And if that's not enough, then tap into those that you know, your mentors, your coaches, those positive people in your life that will say, hey, you got this, you can do this, I'm with you. And then if that doesn't work, tap into whatever you believe in. Mine is, I believe in God. So I tap into God and say, I tried this, I tried that, it didn't work. I need you. And so I tap into the faith, and then I go, okay, let me go do this now because I'm scared. I'm going to do it because I'm scared. I wrote my book called Do It Because You're Scared. Because 99% of the time, when you break through a fear, 99% of the time, the results are going to be amazing. So why are you depriving yourself of that amazingness? That's what fear does. It deprives us of an amazing life. So go do it because you're scared.
Mm.
That was the short answer.
Yeah, I love that. I think that it is a beautiful point to understand that our perspectives have the ability to be so different, and we try to make them seem so similar. And that is the reason why some fears mean more to others and some they don't. And it does play into part from the way that you were raised, the things that you were brought up to believe, and all of that. And that is kind of, to me, it's the beauty of what makes us different. And when we can honor that in ourselves, we learn to also honor that in other people. And then other people's fears and accomplishments and whatever it has meaning to them, we can then cheer them on because that meaning means something to them. And we know what that feels like when we've had meaning to our own small or large accomplishments or things that we failed through to get to the other side. So I think it's a beautiful testament that that is part of the human journey, and that's something that we need to focus on as a human race is how can I see somebody else's perspective and understand it to the point to where it is relatable to something I have been through. And that's where the connection is. It doesn't necessarily mean the fear has to be the same, the belief has to be the same, the understanding has to be identical, but it's giving that space for that other person and be like, I know what you're going through. And that honestly is what all of us are wanting, right? We're wanting that connection. We're looking for that support. We're wanting to be feel seen and heard in our own ways from different people that we are around. So, Lynda, this is, oh, I could talk to you for days on this
Me
subject. And
too. Yeah.
as I told you when we first met, like, congratulations to you for one, even hearing that I'm going to deal with the fear for 365 days and then deciding like I'm going to do it. Like we hear so many thoughts throughout the day. And I know I wake up with things. I'm like, God, it's a really great idea. And then I like push it to the side. Right. And for you
Yeah.
to take something like this and know that it was going to make such a difference in your life, right? Maybe you didn't know exactly what it was going to do, but for some reason you felt called to do it and you made the decision of, you know what? I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this for me. And I think that that is a beautiful testament to who you are as a person. And I also think that it's a beautiful testament to the work that you do with other people and why certain authors that are looking to write their stories align with you and what it is that you do. So as we come to a close, please do me a favor and tell everybody, how can they find you? How can they connect with you? How can they be in your world?
First of all, thank you so much, Kat, for having me. I appreciate it. And these are topics that I think are very important for people to really dive into. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to share, a little bit about what I've learned. I've learned a lot more, during that year that, there's not enough time to go into that here today. But they can find me. I'm on all those socials. I'm even on TikTok, which might not even be around today because I heard it's going away in the US, but it depends on what's happening in the world. But I'm on all the socials, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at, it's Lynda, Lynda Sunshine West. And also our company, Action Takers Publishing. You can find us, we have a website, and then also we're on the socials as Action Takers Publishing. And I love telling people stories because it's just one thing that a lot of people are scared to do. I was scared to share my story. I have helped so many authors to break through their fear of sharing their story. And it's been incredible to see what happens once we start sharing, because I like to say it's our relation points that create our relationships. It's when we share our story that people can relate to us. So we have to get out there and start sharing more of our stories.
I love that so much. And of course, we'll have all of Lynda's information in the show notes. We'll make it super easy for you to be able to find with her, click on it, connect with her. And if you are looking to write a book, you have a publisher right here that is definitely going to be a cheerleader on your side. Lynda, I love your story. I love what you stand for. And I love what it is that you are pushing for other people. And I just think that this fear thing was just the coolest thing. I'm going to be talking about this for a really long time. So
Awesome.
Thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today, Lynda.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You are so welcome. And to everybody else out there, welcome to 2025. I hope that this hit you right where it needed to. Whatever it is that you are feeling, whatever changes it is that you are wanting to do this year, whatever resolutions you have told yourself that you're going to do, maybe take a look at that. Maybe redefine how you're going to do something this year and maybe start inward as you then decide to move outward. I think that that in itself is something that is absolutely beautiful, and you would be amazed at the things that you could accomplish in the new year. So until next time, do one thing positive for someone each and every day and see the difference that it makes in your life. And until next time, we'll catch you soon. Hello again, and thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today. If you enjoyed this episode and it brought tons of value, we ask that you please share, like, and subscribe. Your support means the world to us and helps us to reach even more inspiring entrepreneurs who can benefit from these powerful conversations. If you haven't already, be sure to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform, as this feedback is an amazing gift that fuels our growth and helps us to continually improve this podcast. Looking for an extra dose of inspiration and empowerment? Then be sure to connect with me on social media. You can find me at The Lotus Effect, where I share valuable resources and tips while sharing my own journey of being an entrepreneur. And if you're interested in learning more about my coaching programs and services, be sure to check out my website at the-lotus-effect.com. Once again, thank you so much for being a part of Real Chat with Kat. Your presence and support makes all the difference. Remember, whether you find yourself in the depths of the mud or on the path of growth, we all have a unique journey. And just like the lotus, some of us start in the dirtiest of mud, yet as we rise and grow, we blossom into something beautiful, unique, and truly one of a kind. To all of my visionaries out there, keep rising and growing as you create your own lotus effect.